the performer. So this is the one who always knows the room. They're there to understand and to present. They're hyper aware, charismatic often, but they can read emotions like a script. You know what's going on in a room before you even enter it. You know exactly what tone will land, what words are going to keep things calm, and what smile will make them trust you. You survive by being adaptable. Unfortunately, that adaptability often feels exhausting. So if you've ever left a meeting feeling, did I just put on a performance there, or did I actually speak my truth? Then you might well be a performer. So the part of you that uses charm, intellect, or even empathy to stay safe, that is what we are talking about with the performer. So the key message here is not that you're fake. I don't want you to think that. It's just that you are fluent in survival. Your gift is actually connection, but the challenge of that is congruence. And what we mean by congruence is our feelings, what we're feeling, and what we're saying match. And that very rarely happens. So why does this protective self exist? Well, you grew up in an environment where there was little, or there was emotional uncertainty. Love might have depended on the mood of the parent, whether conflict was happening and it could just suddenly turn explosive without warning. So you've learnt to adapt. You read those subtle signs. You know when people are getting a bit tetchy and they might be getting angry, and you can anticipate that need, and you go in and throw like a fire blanket over it. So you can change the tone in a room mid-sentence sometimes at a point to keep everyone safe and stable. You sense it in the environment and you're there to rescue it, to shift it. And that attunement kept you safe because authenticity felt risky. And then you get into a relationship with a manipulator, and that adaptability becomes your armour. They rewarded your charm and punished honesty. They liked it when you were keeping them happy, obviously. So you mastered that impression management. You mastered how you came across, saying the right thing at the right time to minimise self-harm. So now when you sit in front of professionals, that instinct kicks in again. You mirror, manage and modulate. Your nervous system merges with your memory of your ex and says, if they like me, I'm safe. If they don't, I'm doomed. But court isn't a stage and a performance. It can look too polished and actually ends up being interpreted as manipulation. Now again, I know that this is what narcissists look like. The difference between you and a narcissist is you are looking to grasp that level of self-awareness so you can make the shift. They can't do that. They rely upon these defense mechanisms, these protective selves to live in the world, to survive. You want to move past this. You want to change your story. You want to change it for yourself and for your children. So what's happening is that you're not lying, you're just shape-shifting in order to survive. But when your tone and your words and your feelings don't match what's really going on for you, they can sense that. You can feel when something's not quite right. I can sense it, and I feel really uncomfortable when someone is lying, and that is how it feels, that incongruence. It feels icky. It makes me feel angry and frustrated. And that's my sign there's some incongruence here. They're not saying what they really think or what they really feel. And so when you're around professionals and they feel that, then they're sensing something. Now, they're not always going to know where it's coming from. They might think it's your ex. They might think it's you. But what's important is your own congruence, you being in your integrity and having that full match between your words, your thoughts, your actions, that is such a powerful place to be as a parent and as a human being. So, because you're more trustworthy when you're in that, but when you're not, when you are incongruent, then trust starts to slip away. And this isn't about not connecting. This is, empathy is a gift. It just doesn't feel like it because you've spent your entire life changing who you are to fit for other people. And we don't want to do that anymore. But we want to use the empathy, but we want to use it to connect honestly with other people from a place of integrity. This will show your emotional intelligence. So you lose the mask and your influence actually becomes very real because you give off a different vibe. And whether you like those terms or not, you do, and you know it because you've been around people that give off a different vibe. So let's have a look at how you show up over the trauma states. So first off, let's look at freeze. And that's very much that survival instinct of stop, and in this case, smile and stay still. So you smile because you're panicking inside. The smile is just covering up that fear and that internal chaos. You feel disconnected and on autopilot. And unfortunately, other people could probably feel that as well. So soften that smile. Breathe out and ask yourself, am I performing calm or am I feeling calm? And learn to recognize the difference. Form. You'll say whatever you think they want to hear. You will mirror their tone and opinion to avoid conflict. Now, building rapport is about mirroring, but not just doing it for the sake of luring someone in. This is what narcissists do. Narcissists mirror tone and opinion to bring you in, to manipulate. For you, you're doing it to avoid that conflict. You're trying to stay safe because when you've got agreement, you think that you feel safe. But what happens is you're just betraying your own truth. So you feel guilty. And again, that kind of seeps out of you. So replace that automatic agreement with, that's a really interesting perspective. You're not agreeing with it, but you're acknowledging their perspective. And those small, authentic statements, well, they build that sense of inner safety, which other people can pick up on. Flight. So you over prepare the performance. You rehearse your lines. Now, there's nothing wrong with practicing. There's nothing wrong with knowing your stuff. But you do it as if you're about to get on stage. I need to know my lines. I need to know it fully. You edit and edit and edit and edit your statements. You script interaction. So before you pick up the phone, you're going through, I do this sometimes. You are going through what you're going to say, what they're going to say if this happens. You often do it after an event as well, where, oh, if I'd have only said this at this point, this is all, you're trying to control how you're perceived, and that takes away your authenticity. You're not responding to what's happening. Instead you're in your head thinking, how should I respond to that? So it lacks that authenticity. So practice imperfection. Get comfortable with making mistakes. Get comfortable with fluffing your lines. Speak without editing. Scary, right? Let you in on a little thing here. I wanted to do when I was going through. I'm still going through my healing, but one part of my healing, when I noticed I kind of did some of these things, was I considered doing a stand-up. Not like just going and getting on a stage, but doing a class. Not because I wanted to become a stand-up comic, but because I wanted to get comfortable with fluffing my lines, with making mistakes, with potentially being laughed at. Because it was the only way I felt, well, not the only way, but it was a way that I thought that I could overcome that. That's just a little side story for me. Because real authority feels spontaneous. It's not, and this is why I have a problem with actors and actresses, is I would struggle if I was around them to know what's truth and what's not. And so lean into your truth, your authenticity. Fight. You want to defend that image. You double down on who you want to be seen as. You double down on being composed. You double down on being confident. You double down on being perfect. Especially when you're challenged. You can come up, if someone challenges your opinion on something, you push harder because you're trying to protect yourself, because any exposure feels really dangerous because that's what you've learned. So you can come across as being defensive, calculating, and even evasive because you don't always answer the question because you haven't practiced that. You're too scared of being authentic and truthful that if you haven't practiced that, you have no idea what to say. So you give an answer to something else. I see it in politicians all the time. So drop the performance and admit to those small truths. If you don't know the answer to something, say, I don't know. That's okay. Might feel a bit icky, but it's okay. Transparency disarms suspicion faster than trying to give a polished answer. And again, I use the politician thing is, we know when they're lying to us because they're trying too hard to look perfect. If they just said, actually, I don't know. This is a really weird situation. We've never been through anything like this before. Or, whatever the situation. We'd all go, fair enough. That's honest. But they don't. They perform. And so that is how you're being interpreted. So when you work through these and you start to heal your nervous system, you expand your window of tolerance, then you can get into flow. And this is where authenticity is influence. You communicate naturally. You don't need a script. You don't need a mask. You don't need to hide your true self and put on this act, because safety is in here. It's not out there. It's not performed. It's not gained from doing anything out there. It all comes from here. And professionals then feel it. They feel your ease. They feel trust in you, and they feel that congruence. They believe what you're saying. And I always say, you won't believe a story if you don't believe the storyteller. And when you are in your truth, you are a powerful storyteller. You are a powerful performer because you stand in your truth and your authenticity. So ground before speaking and match your tone to what you're feeling. If you're feeling stressed, it's okay to speak stress. Don't try and mask it. Don't try and hide it. Say, I'm feeling a bit stressed. My voice might go a bit hyper. Let your humanity, not perfection, do the talking. So let's just have a quick look at how this might show up in the courtroom and how it might be misread. Professionals might distrust, or more likely to distrust, something that feels polished but inauthentic. Feels like you're reading from a script, especially when it's around the children, because you want them to know that you know your kids, what you're saying is genuine. It comes from a real knowledge of an understanding of what's in their best needs, what they need, how they express it, all those kind of things. And when you're reading from a script, it doesn't feel like that. Now, I'm going to say here, and I talk about this in lots of my workshops and my courses, nothing wrong with having bullet points of what you want to say. Not at all. I 100% recommend that. But the point is, make sure that what you're saying is your absolute truth. Because I'm going to give you an example here. When I first started at university years and years ago, we had to do the introduction thing where you talk about yourself for a certain amount of time. People went into mad panic. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And they were writing notes and notes. And I was like, why do you need to write notes? Do you not know yourself? If you don't know what you want and what's best for your children. Now, yes, you can learn ways to say it, but the core of it has to be genuine. So your gift becomes your risk. That composure and how articulate you are makes people wonder, is it real? Are they faking it? So your attempts to feel safe, unfortunately, can come across as being too calculating, too strategic, and they might not believe what you say. They might not think it's genuinely you. It's more what you want them to say, or you're lying. Especially if that's the narrative that's being told about you. Then you've got to be mindful of that. But your authenticity will land a whole lot harder than any kind of perfection. Being real really is powerful. So let's flip this from that performance to that presence. Your gift is connection. You know how people feel because you've become sort of almost hyper vigilant to it. Your empathy is a gateway into how people feel, but unfortunately it's been used against you. But when you tune into the truth of yourself, it's about connection. It's about when someone's feeling sad, you don't try and put on a performance. You're there for them. You bring warmth, you bring humour and grace under pressure. And so that is how you flip this. You build a connection on truth, which is far more powerful than built on the need for approval. So rather than needing a round of applause at the end of your performance, you just do your best and you do it honestly and naturally. You don't have to act confident. You just have to be congruent. So before every meeting, remind yourself, I don't need to convince. I just need to communicate. My presence is enough. And that is that embodied shift. So if you feel yourself going into performance mode, just pause. Feel your feet on the floor. Relax your jaw. Soften your smile. And take a slow exhale through the mouth and release that mask. Let it go. You are not on the stage. You do not need to perform. You are safe to be seen as you are. And when you do that, you are a powerful communicator. You are clear, engaging, emotionally intelligent, and authentic. You don't have to adjust yourself to anyone, especially not authorities. They just trust you. They trust your voice. They trust the storyteller. They experience you as credible and open, not rehearsed. You don't perform that connection, you create it. So your presence is enough. You've spent years performing safety for other people, but now it's inside of you. So when you feel that instinct to act or charm or to try and win people over and prove yourself, just breathe, soften, and say to yourself, I don't need to impress anyone. I just need to be real.